Good morning and welcome to Better Thyself segment of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. Young people, when they are just out of the school, want to get a job and they need a resume. You are working in a job and you want to shift. You need a resume. As a matter of fact, resume is the first step and the most important step because the first impression is lost impression. And you need a resume that can just captivate the recruiting manager, hiring manager, or the recruiter. The need is to get his attention as a person who has handled corporates at the top level, and then as a management consultant can tell you that the hiring managers, and I was very annoyed with them. They would come to me with resumes and they would show the resumes and they were absolutely junk. Reason? 24% of the hiring managers spend less than 30 seconds looking at each resume. Now 30 seconds, and they're not wrong even if there are hundreds of resumes they've got, and they're time bound. So 30 seconds is the maximum they devote to one resume. That being the case, you have to avoid resume writing mistakes so that you cross the first hurdle. Is a hurdle. Getting a job is a hurdle. Changing a job is a hurdle. And crossing that hurdle, the first hurdle is resume. As a matter of fact, resume reading is like reading an essay. And all the words that your English teacher back in the grade school told you to avoid using, you can expect the same when it comes to resume. And unfortunately, while I tell everybody to unlearn what you've learned, here you have got to remember what you have learned. And the people don't do that. As a matter of fact, I've been talking to the recruiting managers as a CEO. They would come to me as I told you, and then I would. And then I found that there are 6 specific terms you have got to avoid using on resume. First are 2 adjectives, really and very. Now, these 2 adjectives, and like them others, adjectives like really and very, are pretty empty adjectives. They don't mean anything. They don't add any meaning, any way to your bullet points. I was reading Swami Vivekananda at one time and I was amazed at his perception. He says Indians don't write better English because they use too many verbs. And they use the auxiliary verbs, is, are, am, has. Similarly, they use too many adjectives. Now, if you really want your resume to be concise and such that hit in the solar plexus, avoid these adjectives like really and very. Just jump to the verb. And the verb should be intransitive verb, if you have remember that. It's more impactful that way. Second point you have got to ensure that you have to avoid vague terms. As a matter of fact, you might have seen that if you want to go to the forest, and if you ever go to the forest, leaves are fallen, and the fruit has fallen. And there are many leaves and the fruit is hidden. You have got to remove the leaves. But here the hiring manager doesn't have the time to remove the leaves. You have to give him specific fruit and not the leaves. So avoid the vague terms, vague titles like intern, manager. Your title should be specific to the job and it should delineate what job you were doing. I was a manager at such and such place. Managing what? These titles, vague, confusing as they are, do not give a sense of what you are actually doing in that role. What was the job detail? What were the job specifications? You have to give some very specific words which delineate your job, whether you are operating as an intern, and if you are an intern, what are you? A social media intern? A design intern? An account intern? A recruitment intern? What field? And until and unless you specify what you are doing, how can the recruiting manager hire you? And why should he? If you are not sure about your job profile, how would you be sure about anything else? As I always say, that when you go for a role, be dressed to kill. And people don't know small things. When you enter the room, enter with the right foot forward and face lifted up, not looking down, not looking sideways, straight into the people's face. Same is about this writing. It should be specific and immediately acceptable. Well, this guy knows what he is talking about. So you have got to be much more specific what you have been doing and what you are doing. This will make your resume attractive, captivating, and what I normally say, bewitching. You have got to be a wizard, magician, to just magically create an aura of indispensability, that you are indispensable, and the company, if it doesn't hire you, shall be losing a great deal, both at this stage and later on. There are other stages as well, but this, you have first got to cross the first hurdle, and the job well done, well begun is half done, as they say, so you have got to half do it. Then avoid these terms which specify your self-assessment. You don't have to assess yourself. You are not here recruiting somebody, you are offering a job. I've seen some people, a guy came to me, sir, I'm very detail-oriented. I said, who told you? My question was, who told you? And what you are telling me you are detail-oriented from your point of view. No. So avoid these self-assessment terms. You can't be your own judge. You can't decide what you are. These kind of assessments only make the recruiter or the hiring manager smile. They say, what? He says he is detail-oriented, he is result-oriented. What are we here for? If we had to judge himself, our job is redundant, useless, surplus. We are not needed. So this self-assessment is always self-defeating. You need to let your nouns, verbs, and numbers stand on their own. Let your numbers, how much you have achieved. See, you are a salesperson, your target is so, did you cross the target and what percentage? That's a number. Your verbs, your job details, your nouns, they would reinforce your resume. And then if your resume has no typos, no spelling errors, it helps to prove that you are detail-oriented. You say you are detail-oriented, and in the detail you say T-A-L-E instead of T-A-I-L. D-E-T-A-L-E. Is that an example of your detail? And that's the actual happening. I saw it. And that's why I'm giving you this example specifically. So you have got to ensure that you're not judging yourself. because that can have, in fact, a negative impact. If you give specific examples to show how much you have improved your team's, as I said, sales target, production, or even the time saved, that will help. You have got to show by positive results. I was, say, a sales assistant here and I increased that. I was a supply chain manager, and in the supply chain, this is the way I ensure the quick deliveries. Then you have got to avoid jargon that may be used in your present organization, but it's not done. And I've seen, honestly speaking, nowadays with this habit of sending messages, you abbreviate. Even on Facebook I saw BD. I said, what is this BD? HBD. What nonsense. And the person wanted to wish happy birthday and he wrote HBD. This irritates. Let's say you work in a leadership development team and in your company are calling it LDT. And you write, well, I'm a manager of LDT. I'm managing LDT. So who the hell knows what LDT is? Why can't you write the complete word, leadership development team? And it means something. So jargon, abbreviations, which might be a current usage in your organization, may not be universal, and even if they are universal, try to avoid them. To begin with, you have got to ensure that you cannot assume the recruiter or HR person reading your resume will know all the abbreviations, all the acronyms. And why should he? When you apply for a job within a given company, all the recruiters in that company now have access to your resume. When you apply nowadays to one job, you're not in fact applying to one job because that's circulated, that is their database. And 90% of the people will simply throw your resume in the waste paper basket if you have committed this mistake. And it's quite possible. You may not ultimately be fit for the role you are applying for, but you could be fit for another role down the line. But when you are using the jargon that an applicant tracking system or HR person doesn't recognize, then your career is doomed. Then avoid the trendy words, buzzwords, which have no meaning. For example, ninja. I'm saying, in the last few days I have seen it. I'm a copywriting ninja. I'm a sales ninja. Where the need of writing this word? Simply you want to show that you are up with the trend? No. You have got to be, as I said, specific, and this sort of usage only shows your triviality. You see, it is like withholding your company, avoiding company-specific jargon. What is searchable? Use those words which are searchable, which other people know what it is. And then, one worst thing I've seen is when the people write references available on request. Why the hell should recruiter request? That's an assumption, and it's going to take real valuable space on your resume. As a matter of fact, instead of writing that, come up with another bullet point in a previous job that proves that you are able to accomplish. Bullet point. In my previous job, I achieved this target and crossed this target by such and such. Be specific. But reference available on request has no meaning. And the big picture when you're writing the resume. This is danger of the street test. You don't know the person to whom the resume is going. So you read every line, read every bullet point, and then ask yourself, would a person who doesn't know you, would a person who is not conversant with your thoughts, your language, understand it? Would a stranger be interested in this? Would you, if you are a stranger and read this resume, be overwhelmed, or would you say, what nonsense? So be your own judge of the resume you have written, but don't not in the resume. So if you avoid these pitfalls, then your resume can stand a very fair chance of being seen, scrutinized, and followed by an interview call to you. So these small tricks enable you to write a resume and make you a better applicant. And that's what you want to be. Thank you.